Hello everybody, my name is Todd Dasilva and we are here in lovely San Diego on Thursday afternoon, and I'm here at our Unite Academy and I'm going to take you through a haircut. But before I do that, I'll kind of explain to you who I am, what I do here at Unite. I'm the Unite Assistant Creative Director. I've been a hairdresser for 12 years and my background is education. I taught at a school for eight years here in San Diego and I love to share. So I think what I'm going to do for you guys today is share one of our most popular haircuts that's trending, that's being requested and asked a lot behind the chair, and that's a shag type haircut variation. So I'm going to do long layers for you guys and I'll kind of explain to you how I break down a haircut and what goes into a haircut. So I call it the 6 stages of a haircut. And the first stage is consultation. I think it's one of those things that's probably looked over quite a bit in our industry, is that initial conversation that you have with your guest behind the chair and how you guys even determine what haircut would be most suitable for that guest. So let's kind of talk a little bit about what my favorite questions are to kind of give you an idea on why I would choose a certain haircut like this. So some of the questions would be, what's your kind of morning routine? How do you get ready for the day? What are certain products that you love to put into your hair? Do you own certain tools like a blow dryer, flat iron, curling iron, round brush, all those? And kind of what do you want to get out of that haircut? Do you want it to be more low maintenance, kind of a wash and go type of look? Or do you want to take the time in the morning to do a quick little blow dry? And then beyond that, we look at things like bone structure, so certain facial features, head shape, how that factors in. And I always say, start with open-ended questions. Those are questions that are going to deliver more than a yes or no answer from your guest to you. And then always reiterate back to the guest what you're going to do, how many inches you might be taking off of that length, what type of layers or whatever you're going to be doing. I wouldn't get too technical with that. And then go off from there. The second stage of the 6 stages of a haircut is called foundation. So foundation is the wet relationship of the haircut. What kind of shape you're going to be putting into that, and then what's the overall technique. So on our doll head today, I'm going to be doing more of a square shape. So all that means is that we're going to be building corners at the rounds of the head. It's the most balanced out of all the different shapes. The other 2 shapes are triangular, which is short in the back, getting longer towards the front. And the third shape is round, which is short in front, getting longer towards the back. So I like this shape for our 1 length, which is what we're going to start with today. And then the shape up here, which is, I call it internal, everything that's above the rounds of the head, is also going to be a square shape. And our technique today is called a flat layer. So I'm going to cut a flat layer here, and then I'm also going to cut a flat layer here, which is going to be where I'm cutting parallel to the ceiling. So let's go ahead and get started with our length. I always tend to prep all my haircuts with our Unite 7 Seconds Detangler. I find that this is a great cutting lotion to use. What this is going to do is it's going to add beautiful protein to the hair and also fill in any little gaps, or if the client might have damaged hair, this is going to make sure that the hair is nice and evenly distributed with product. And I always start off with a spraying a liberal amount throughout the entire hair. Now there are 3 different approaches to cutting a 1 length. First approach would be through your fingers. You got to be careful of that, because if you put it into your fingers, you might be lifting the hair, which might change the overall technique. The second way is to cut on the skin. That's me pushing against the skin and cutting. And the way that I'm going to be doing today is through the comb. So the spine of the comb is looking towards me. I'm going to comb all the way down and start my length adjustment. Now, I don't know about you guys, but some of our major concerns when we're cutting 1 length is how to ensure that both sides are nice and balanced. Now, I think what's probably the most important thing to consider when you're starting to cut is what your lower half of your body is doing. So what are your feet doing? Are you moving a lot while you're cutting, or is your body staying still? So if you want to cut a nice, beautiful shape, beautiful one length, we have to make sure that we're not moving our body. We're not moving our feet as we're cutting. So I like to use the room that we're in and make sure that anytime you take a section, you want to put yourself back into that same position every time. Nice, clean sections. Okay, and now I have a really good guide going, and I'm just going to continue. So this is cut to natural fall, 0 degree elevation. And that means I'm not over directing. I'm not pulling this hair back. I'm combing it down where it naturally lives and then cut. So I'm just moving my upper body as I'm cutting, and I'm trying not to move my feet at all. The third stage of the 6 stages of a haircut is called cross-check. So you're going to see when I start to do more of that layering technique that I do quite a bit of cross-checking as I'm working. Now, what's the purpose of a cross-check? Cross-checking is just to ensure that whatever technique or shape that you're working on is doing exactly what you want it to do. So when I start to cut my layer, you're going to find that I take the opposite section. So let's say I take a horizontal section like this. I would take a vertical section to check my work. So that's a cross check. And I find the reason for that is to make sure that, let's say you're working on a client and maybe it's not as balanced as you like. Maybe one side is a little shorter than the other side. If you cross check while your guest is sitting in the chair, it ensures that whatever you're doing is correct, and they're not going home and finding that mistake, looking in the mirror themselves. And that quality of work that's walking around, remember, that's your billboard that's walking around. That's the person that's going to get business coming back to you, is exactly what it needs to be. As you can tell, right when I combed over this ear area, I released the tension. So I pressed over the ear, I pressed below the ear, and that's to compensate for the ear. If you don't push over those little areas, you might find that there's a little jump in this area here. It's gonna look like a little hole. So I always press over that ear to compensate. So since I'm working a square shape, I've changed my body position slightly. So now I'm standing more in the profile of our doll head. And I'm bringing it all down. I'm still cutting to natural fall. Don't forget, we have to do something right over that ear. So here's the ear right here. I'm gonna comb down. Make sure I press above, press below, and cut. So here's my last little section for our one length. I didn't need that clip anyways, that's okay. Comb everything down to natural fall. Okay. Really take your time. I'm using the fine side of my comb, so I have proper tension. First, I work that back area. Now I'm going to work the profile. And then I go over that ear and I need to push above, push below, compensate for that ear, and then cut. Same thing on this opposite side. Just behind that ear. Now I'm going to go over, push above, push below, compensate for the ear, and cut. Beautiful. So that's our one length. Let me go ahead and check this other side a little bit. So a little bit of cross-checking just to make sure that everything's nice and balanced. Okay, so once I've cut that length portion, now what I'm going to do is go ahead and section for our layer. So the first section is vertical. So I'm going to go from the crown all the way down into that nape. Take my time, comb whatever I don't want nice and out of the way. And I'm going to work with what's called a traveling guide. So what that means is I'm going to pull everything into the previous section. I'm going to do that until I get to the mastoid. So the mastoid is this little bone right behind the ear, okay? So everything's going into the previous. So here's my first section. Once I get to this portion here, everything from that point forward is all gonna come back. So I pretend like there's a wall right here, and everything's coming back to this wall, and you're cutting all down a hallway. Standing position, if you're right-handed, is going to be to your client's left-hand side. And the reason for that is because I want the tip of the blade to travel up, not down, okay? I got to be really cautious that I don't cut into my length. So from the occipital bone down to the nape, this is that length that I don't want to cut. Everything above that, I'm going to start with my layer. So again, I'm cutting a flat layer, comb vertical, fingertips down, knuckles are up. Everything's being brought back. And then again, tip of the blade is traveling up. So this is a flat layer. Now this is only one option here. There are two different other layer techniques. The second layer technique is called a convex layer, or you might hear somebody call a round layer. All that means is that you're cutting with the contour of the head, so you're cutting with the curve. And then the third layer technique is called concave, or somebody might call it short to long. So that's shorter internally, getting longer externally. So I've chosen the middle, the flat layer. Flat layer to me creates corners at the rounds of the head, and it's the most balanced out of all three layer techniques. So comb vertical, fingertips down, knuckles up, right there's the guide. Take nice clean sections so that way you don't get lost. I've noticed a lot of hairdressers when they work, they might get a little confused and they might think that they don't see their guide anymore. And I think it's because they're taking a little bit too big of a guide. So start off with taking smaller sections so you can see your guide really clearly. Fingertips down, knuckles up. Right there's our guide. So again, I'm working a traveling guide. Everything's being pulled into the previous. There's going to be a part where I start to change though, and it's right here. This bone right here is called the mastoid. The reason why I'm choosing to change from a traveling into a stationary guide is because what's lacking here? There's no hair. The hairline lives much higher in the front. So in order to preserve length and fullness and weight, I've decided I'm going to bring everything back. So right now this is a stationary guide. What is that going to do to my shape? That means that my shape is triangular, short and back, getting longer towards the front. Okay, so remember it's all coming back. And you're going to see that there's less and less hair that I'm cutting with every section I take. So I feel pretty confident here that I could just bring all this back now, and there's going to be less hair to cut. Yeah, so right here, you only see a little tiny bit at the very top there, okay? But that's a good thing, because if there was a ton of hair to cut, I might be cutting a hole in this little length portion. So I want to maintain the fullness right through this little area here. So for those joining us a little late, again, my name is Todd Dasilva with Unite. I'm the Assistant Creative Director. We're here in lovely San Diego. This is our Unite Academy that I'm sitting in now. This is where we shoot a lot of our video work and photo shoots. A lot of fun stuff goes down in this room. And yeah, so thank you guys, Salon Republic, for having me. Love you guys. And we're just doing a fun haircut here. So this is our Shag haircut. This is a variation of a shag that I do. And then what we're gonna do real quick is a cross check. So since I was taking vertical sections, I'm now gonna take a horizontal section just to make sure that whatever I'm doing is correct. Really important, guys, when you're cross-checking, that you hold it at the same elevation. I wouldn't cross-check and hold the hair down this way or hold it way up here. When I initially took my vertical sections, I was bringing it straight back. So that's how I want to check things out. Another cross-check. And I'm bringing everything back. Nobody saw me drop my comb. It's totally okay. Just blow it off. All right, that's looking good so far. So now what I have to do is I have to do the same thing, but now on the left-hand side. So here's what happens. Most people from this side now change their body position. Then they'll stand over here. Now the only reason why I would say that's probably not a good idea because in order to cut that flat layer and be on this side, you would physically have to cut down. And look what's happening to my shoulder here. That's not a good motion for me to be in. That's not how my body really works. So instead, what we like to do here is we like to keep our body in the same spot. So I'm not gonna move. And this side is now gonna turn into our push side. So this side I was pulling everything into the previous. On this side, I'm gonna push everything into the previous. So I'm gonna push away from my body instead of pulling towards my body. And again, we're cutting, it's like a hallway, and we're cutting to the wall at the back of the hall. So we're gonna go back, straight back, right there's the guide, nice and clean, to that second knuckle, and cut. Again, I'm working a traveling guide until I get to the mastoid. So that little bone right behind your ear, that's what I call a transition point, and we're gonna do something different once we get there. And what it's gonna be is I'm gonna bring it all back, so it's gonna turn into a stationary guide. Okay. Hope you guys are being safe out there, and you know, I know we're in a weird time at the moment, but our industry is really close together, and I love that we're able to do this live for you guys, and we're always thinking about you guys and making sure that you guys get back into that salon and get to work on your clients. Okay, now I'm at the mastoid. I'm gonna turn her in a moment so you guys can see. Okay, so now if we place our comb here and we rock it, that's gonna tell us where our little mastoid bone is. So everything from this point on is now gonna come back. Straight back. And right there's our guide. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and take all this hair back. And there should just be a little tiny bit to cut. Beautiful. So, I don't know if you guys could tell, but remember this is triangular. So it's shorter in the back, getting longer towards the front. The purpose for that is to maintain length and weight towards around the face. Okay, because we're gonna do something a little bit different up here that's gonna give us that shag look. So now I'm gonna jump to the crown, okay? Again, I always spray our 7 seconds detangler as our cutting lotion. I find that I don't have to keep going back to the spray bottle if I'm using this guy. It's gonna maintain that moisture in the hair while you're cutting. I'm gonna lower this a tad, because now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut parallel to the ceiling. So it's all gonna come up this way, okay? So let's take a vertical section. Make sure you clip away anything that you don't need. Nice, clean sections. And I should see a guide from what I did earlier. So see that top little point right there? Right, that right there is what I cut before. I brought it all back. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to take pivoting sections. So every section I take, I'm going to take a little pivot from the apex. So this point up here is called the apex. You could use your comb again to find it. And it's all going to come back to this point here. So this is a stationary guide. Sometimes I like to talk in a numbering system. Say like the first guide was number 1, second guide is number 2, and so on. So now everything's being brought to number 1, our number 1 guide, so it's stationary. Pivot. Take your time, comb whatever you don't want nice and out of the way. Drop your elbow slightly, because remember we want to cut parallel to the ceiling. Got 2 sections left. It's all coming to the first guide. Last section. I also love to do this haircut with the razor. I don't know how many of you guys out there like to cut with the razor, but this haircut works really well for that. I tend to not like to cut up with the razor, so if this were a person, I would just have her head tilted more towards me, and I would bring everything this way and cut with the razor. So either way works. I'm gonna go ahead and change my body position for this side, okay? And again, we're gonna bring it all up. So I guess this would be considered 90-degree elevation, straight up. And again, this layer technique is called a flat layer. And we're bringing everything to the center. So we're taking pivoting sections, 2 into 1, 3 into 1, 4 into 1. And I know, see how important it is that I put my body back where it was. So when you take your section, make sure you find where you just were and put yourself right back where you were. So on this side, my elbow goes up. And there's our guide. Two more sections. Really clean sections. All right, it's looking shaggy, very shaggy. So let's do a quick little cross check. So since I took pivoting sections this way, I'm now going to take a horizontal section and just check to make sure that I'm doing exactly what I should be doing. And that looks pretty good, pretty good. So a little cross check. Very good. All right, now we're gonna finish off on the top here, and then we'll get into a little bit of blow drying and refinement. So for those of you that were kind of just joining us, at the beginning of all this, I talked about the 6 stages of a haircut. The first stage was consultation. So how do we communicate to our guests to make sure that whatever they're wanting is suitable for them? And we ask our guests a few different questions. The second stage of the 6 was called foundation, which is what we're doing now, which is a wet haircut. So we're putting in our shape, we're putting in our technique. Our shape is square externally, and it's gonna be triangular internally. So that all that means is it's gonna get longer towards the front, okay? So that's what we're gonna do right now. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a vertical section. Really take your time and comb whatever you don't want nice and out of the way. If you need to clip things, then go ahead and clip them out of the way. I'm gonna bring this back into the crown. And again, it's gonna serve as our guide. So I'm gonna turn her this way so you guys could really start to see my over direction. So there's 2 things that we control within haircutting. One is elevation, so how we lift the hair up and down. The lower we hold hair, the heavier the result. The higher we hold hair, the lighter the result, which is our layer technique. And then we also control through over direction, so how we pull from left to right. So since I wanna make sure that this is getting longer towards the front, I'm gonna over direct everything back to me. So I always say it's like I'm gonna point to my chin. Okay, so this is where I'm gonna point to. And right there's our guide from the back. So I'm gonna go ahead and use that. And I actually wanna do more of a point cutting technique now, just to give it that kind of shag look that we're going for. Okay, so that's guide number 1. Now I'm gonna go ahead and grab 2. 2 is gonna get pulled back into 1. One of the things that's really important that I don't touch is this. This is her length. So I wanna be cautious that I don't grab this and bring it up into the layer. Fun little way so you don't cut your finger. If you put this part is what's resting on the finger, and this part is what's doing the cutting. So I'm kind of like trailing along. I don't come down like this. So I place it on the finger. Section 3 is going to get pulled back into 1. All the way across. Remember, it's really important that we don't grab the length. So this is her length here. We don't want to grab that. Last section. Really take your time. Comb this very nice and clean. Once more. There's our guide. All the way across. So since I was taking vertical sections, now I'm going to cross-check it. I need to take a horizontal section. So I'm going to bring it all the way across. Now since I'm working a triangular shape, it should have a slight little incline to it. So as you can see, it's getting longer towards the front. Very good. I'm using you guys as my mirror too, because I don't have a mirror in front of me. So you guys tell me. Looks pretty good. So it's shorter in the back and longer towards the front. I love this. I love this kind of like, it's almost like a little overhang, little veil, slightly disconnected, really fun look. Now we gotta do the same thing on this side. We're almost done. We do a little spray. Vertical section, take your time, comb whatever you don't want nice and out of the way. Bring this back into the crown. That's how we're gonna find our guide. So I've grabbed a section from back here. It's gonna serve as my guide. Now again, I'm gonna bring everything to my chin. So everything's being over-directed back. That's what's helping me control the shape. Our shape again is triangular. Again, what's the important thing here? This does not get incorporated. This is the profile. It wouldn't reach anyways. I don't know if you guys could tell, but it's kind of falling out as I lift things. And that's a good sign. I don't want to include the length. Bring this back. We got to find guide number 1. There it is. Okay, last section, and then we're going to start our blow dry. Very good. So we got our shag going. Triangular shape internally, so it's getting longer towards the front. Square shape externally, that's our one length. The first thing I did is I cut my length, and then I took a vertical section and I cut a flat layer here, okay? The next thing I did is I took pivoting sections from the crown, and I cut everything parallel to the ceiling. The third thing I did is I took vertical sections all the way to the front, and I over-directed it all back, and I did more of a point cutting. So those are the different techniques that I did for the layer. Now we get to have some fun. We get to choose some products that I think would work really well for this. And then also, we could talk a little bit about our newest product, which is our new dry shampoos. So we have 3 in the line. This is our new dry shampoos that we just launched last week. We have U Dry Clear, U Dry Plus, and U Dry High. So I think I'm gonna use this guy today because this one's gonna give us that volume at the end, that little bit of height that I think I want in the crown. These other 2 guys have a little ball inside that breaks up all the different good stuff that's inside the bottles, okay? So this is our new dry shampoo line, U Dry Clear, U Dry Plus, and I'm gonna use this guy today, which is U Dry High. I think it's real cool. It's got this ombre color effect for all the different ones, and I think it's gonna be really fun on the shelves. This is gonna be our new favorite toy to play with. So the first step here is I'm gonna use, again, our 7 seconds detangler. Again, I kind of use this as a primer, so I like to layer and blend some products with it. So I'm gonna give a nice liberal spray throughout. I'm thinking about cutting kind of a fringe in this guy, maybe like a little curtain bang. So kind of getting ideas on what I want to do for this style. Then I'm gonna switch to our 7 seconds blowout cream. Ooh, very good stuff. I like to use about a nickel size. Okay, really work it all the way into the hands, and then I like to work this from the mids down into those ends. This haircut would look really cool diffused, so that's one look you could do. But I think today, because I do want to show you guys some fun dry cutting techniques, is I'm actually going to do a nice little polish wrap dry on it. So again, this is our blowout cream from 7 seconds. And then lastly, I'm gonna use Beach Day. Beach Day, this is our part of our hybrid line. So this is our natural sea salt spray. And this can go on damp or dry. So I love this product. I'll do a couple little spritz just to give it that kind of fun undone look. The tool that I'm using today is a polishing brush. So you guys might know it as like a Denman brush or a Vest brush. It's just a half round brush is how I'm gonna do this guy. So this is a polishing brush. And you can also do the good old fashioned paddle brush as well. But I'm gonna do a wrap dry, a leaf, and a bevel. So all that means is I'm gonna do one way and then the other way and just work my way all the way around the doll head, okay? It's gonna be kind of loud because the blow dryer is going, but believe me, you're gonna wanna stay tuned for the dry cutting portion. But I'm gonna get dry and I'm gonna make sure I get this beautiful for you guys, and then give me a few minutes and we're gonna start our dry cutting. gonna smooth these ends a little bit with an iron. How many of you guys love blow drying? I'm not gonna say that it's my favorite thing to do. But one thing that I do love about Unite is all the products really work really well. I mean, they do what they say they're gonna do. So I think that's what I love most about the brand. So again, what I used was 7 Seconds Detangler as kind of our first beginning product, which is, I think, works more like a primer. And it just helps to blend products over top of it. Our second product that I used was 7 Seconds Blowout Cream, which again gives a beautiful, nice, smooth blowout. So it takes care of all the flyaways, and it helps just to control the hair a little bit when I'm starting with the blow dry. And then the third product I went ahead and sprayed into the hair was our Beach Day product, which again is a part of our hybrid line. So it can go on damp or dry. And that's our natural sea salt spray, just to give it that kind of undone second day type of feel to the hair. So again, I'm just giving it a quick little polish. It's not really needed in the root area, so I'm just kind of focusing on those ends a little bit. Really quick sections, diagonal sections. Nice and slow with the flat iron. I don't like to go over the hair with a bunch of passes. I think the flat iron should just be taken maybe once or twice over the hair. We don't want to damage the hair with the heat. I've definitely switched to a wide tooth comb. So before I was using a regular cutting comb. Anytime I'm dealing with dry hair, I want to change the comb, and I want to use a wider teeth comb just so I'm able to control it a little easier. And it's just so much easier to pick up the hair with a bigger comb. Slide it in. I don't like to touch the hair when it's dry with my fingers. Our fingers already have oils and stuff in them. So if I just allow the comb to do a lot of the work, then it helps. Last little section over here, and then we're going to start the fun stuff, which is our dry cutting. All right, so dry cutting. Now, when I was talking earlier about the 6 stages of a haircut, the first stage was consultation. The second stage was foundation. The third stage was cross-check, which we did quite a bit of cross-checking. The fourth stage, I didn't go into too much, but it was the blow dry. So just making sure that it's blow dried properly, nice and polished. You could even do a round brush if you want. You could do a diffuser if you'd like. But I think it's important to know that whatever blow dry you do, it's gonna set yourself up, it's gonna set you up for the fifth part, which is refinement, so the dry cutting. I always say it's like now you get to decorate. So imagine the room that you're in and it's bare, no chairs, no mirrors, no nothing, it's totally bare. That's the wet cut. That was me putting in the foundation and the shape and all that. Now I get to decorate. Now I get to put the chairs in and I get to put the chandeliers. I get to be a little bit more fun with it. So that's what we're gonna do right now. The first step I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna start here in the back. I'm gonna take a vertical section and we're gonna do some deeper point cutting. Now I think it's important to know the direction that the blade is coming in. So as long as I'm T to the hair, which means I'm coming in more vertical, you're gonna see that I'm not taking away actual length. I'm only taking away additional weight. If I change the angle of the blade and decided to come in more in this motion, then you're gonna start to see actual length being taken away. So we gotta know what, the why, the how, the reason behind it, not just to do it. So the reason I'm doing this is because there's a corner here and I want to soften the corner. So again, I'm coming in a lot more vertical, deeper point cuts. I'm not just getting the little top of it. So I'm coming in a little deeper. And again, the reason I'm doing this is to make the layers that I've already cut in this a little bit more seamless. So you're not able to really see the layers. I don't want there to be a bunch of different little steps to the haircut. Another vertical section. Again, I'm using a wider tooth comb when I'm doing this. There's our little corner there. So when I'm doing this, I think it's important to note that the back of my hand is actually facing my head. I'm not coming in this direction, okay? The reason I'm not doing that is because this is gonna give you more wrist issues later on in life, okay? So to make sure that your wrist is doing exactly what it should be doing, you want the back of your hand to be facing your face. And that's how we're coming through with our point cutting. I'm taking note, every section I take, I'm remembering where I was before. So I don't want to continue to go in the same area over and over and over again. Think of dry cutting like a brick wall. Imagine like there's a brick wall, and anytime I'm doing this, I'm taking bricks out of the wall. If you take too many bricks out of the wall, what do you think is going to happen? That's right, it's going to fall. So I don't want the haircut or the shape to collapse and all that. I still want that technique and shape to be there. I think I saw a question. Oh, I don't think I know how to see the questions. Oh, hi. Hi, Todd. How would you ever refine with a razor, or do you recommend using shears? That's a great question. So for me, if I decided to pull out a razor, which I know you guys at home probably have different types of razors out there. I like to use, it's called a feather plie razor. I would never want to do any type of razor cutting on dry hair. And that's just because as far as like ripping the hair goes, maybe it's not gonna be as clean as a cut with the razor. But I find that if you cut this haircut when it was damp or wet, it would almost give you that fun, shattered haircut regardless. You probably wouldn't need to do as much refinement if you did the whole haircut with the razor. But I wouldn't recommend cutting the hair dry with the razor. That's my opinion. I think it would probably create more damage than anything. So yeah, I would stick with the good old-fashioned scissors for that. But that's a great question. Thank you for that. Now there is one little area that I want to avoid when I'm doing this. And I got one more section left, and then you're gonna see that I'm not gonna go any further. And that's this little hairline area. A lot of people have very delicate hair in the front hairline. We call it vellus hair or baby hair. Maybe there's a little bit of breakage going on around the front hairline. So if you were to come through and do lots of refinement around this area, you might make it look a little too weak. We probably need more of this strength around the face. So I'm gonna stop doing this once I'm past this little section here. I meant to do that. I'm just gonna go with this comb. I drop lots of combs in the salon, believe me. So I'm gonna cut this little curtain bang in a moment, but I think it's good for now. One thing that I could show you a little bit is some slicing techniques. So again, I think it's really important that we don't just slide our scissors down without moving the thumb. So when I pinch this section here, and you see me working very parallel to the hair, I'm always moving my thumb in a downward motion along the shaft of the hair to ensure that I'm just giving a nice little slice into that hair. You could also do what's called channel cutting. So channel cutting is me placing it on the actual scalp. Again, I'm still moving my thumb as I do it. And again, it's just taking out a little bit of more weight in from the hair. But it's fun. You can see there's still lots of fun movement within this haircut. I'm gonna do something a little bit similar on this side. I do lots of lives, lots of Instagram lives with my colleague, Gary Baker, who I think you guys just saw a live from him on Tuesday. I think he did some styling. But we do quite a bit of cutting together on our Unite Pro page. And this is just a fun thing that we like to do. We actually like to debate quite a bit. So one of our debates was, what's the difference between a shag and a mullet? So maybe you guys could chime in the comment section what you guys think is a mullet versus a shag. My answer was a shag connects. So there's a whole connection here. And a mullet is more of a disconnected haircut. It's a little bit shorter up top, gets pretty long in the back. But maybe you guys have your own little opinions on what you think a shag is versus a mullet. Some people think they're the same thing. And then I'm on my last little section here before I get to that front hairline. I don't want to grab that. Beautiful. So let's see what we're working with here in the front. Again, you guys are my mirror. So I'm a big fan of this, curtain bang trend. I think it's really fun. And I think it's important to note that anytime you're cutting around the face, the goal is to highlight features. So if you're doing a consultation with your guest behind a chair, you want to make sure that you're listening to that client, and maybe they don't want to show off a certain feature, whether it be the chin, the cheekbones, the lips, the eyes. So when I'm doing a curtain bang, I always kind of choose a feature to highlight. And I think that the best thing to highlight would be the eyes. So that's what we're gonna do. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a little tiny triangle right in the front. Okay. You guys see my little triangle? It's probably a little bigger than I'd like, but that's okay. And like I said, right now what I want to do is I want to highlight the eyes. But I don't want to cut to the eyes, because what do you think is going to happen when it starts to come out this way? Yeah, it's going to get a little shorter. So I'm going to go a little bit longer first. And I'm going to make a little inverted V. So there's one side and the other. Cool. So that's going to kind of start it out. Let's go ahead and divide this. So we have one side versus the other. Now your body position, whatever side you're going to work on, you're going to be on the opposite side. So since I'm going to work on the left-hand side first, my body position is going to be on the right-hand side. And I'm just going to take sections that follow the hairline. So I'm going to start to take little sections that go with it. Now, for those of you that have been here since the beginning, you heard me say that the higher you elevate, the softer the result. The lower you elevate, the heavier. Okay, so again, it all depends on your client's density, wave pattern, all that. If your client has fine hair, then your elevation should be lower. If your client has a lot of hair, very dense, then your elevation should be a little bit higher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it pretty low. Fingertips are going to point to the ground, knuckles are going to be up. And I'm going to be very loose and start to cut up into my palm. Another section, following the hairline. Fingertips pointed down, knuckles pointed up. Last section should be right at the temple, or we call it the temporal bone. So this little bone right here, that's going to be your finishing section. Anything beyond that, then you're going to start to change the layers that you've already created. So this is going to be our stopping point. Yeah, I'm doing a live right now. It's okay, it's okay. I'm doing it for the people at home. This is Malia here. She's our marketing manager here, so she's amazing. Anytime you see anything fun out there, like our U-Dry packaging, she's the one behind it.
Sorry, thank you.
Okay. All right, so let's do it again on this side. Remember, I'm going to change my body position. Okay. So I've already completed this side. On this side, my knuckles are going to point to the ground. Fingertips are up. I'm still going to cut into my palm. Okay. I'm cutting up towards the ceiling. Next section, following that hairline. Last section at the temple. So I'm not going to go further past this point. And you're going to see that there's not a lot of hair to cut, and that's okay. I have the same question as Kelsey. How far do you go back with the fringe? That's a great question. So thank you so much. So how far do you go back? It's always that question that people ask. Really easy trick here. If you place your comb flat on top of the head, you can do this with your clients, it's okay. If you put your comb flat on top of the head, right where the head leaves the comb is how much hair you should incorporate in the fringe. Anything further back, again, you're gonna start cutting into the layers that you've already created, and it's probably gonna look a little bit too heavy, okay? And anything farther forward, let's say I took it from here, it's gonna look too weak. So the sweet spot, take your comb, right where the head leaves the comb. On the sides, it's gonna be right where the temple is, right here. So if I start to grab this hair back here and bring it forward, you're gonna start to change things. You're gonna start to change the layers and the shape and all that, okay? Great question though, thank you. I don't know how to see the questions, by the way. I hope I'm not missing questions, because I don't see where they're popping up, but. So if you guys are following along with Unite on Instagram, you might have seen that we've just come out with a new product, actually 3 new products, and it's our new dry shampoo line. So the first one is U Dry Clear, okay? And this is your traditional dry shampoo. It does have a ball bearing, if I can get it going. There it is. Ball bearing inside that's gonna break up all the good stuff that's in there. Again, it's gonna absorb all those oils that we have in our scalp area. And this is your traditional, so this is U Dry Clear. Our next one is called U Dry Plus. It has a little bit more absorbing properties inside of it. So let's say you like to go a little bit more not washing your hair. We all do, right? You might wanna pick up a U Dry Plus. And then our last one is called U Dry High. So the good thing about this guy is it can contain certain clays in it that help to give it a little bit of height and volume. So I'm actually gonna use this guy on our lovely Shag model. If you guys love texturizer, actually I do have a bottle of texturizer here. You'll find that when you use this guy, this is our favorite, right? But it comes out very intense, like a fire extinguisher. This one has a little bit softer of a spray. So it comes out a little softer. I don't just spray throughout, so I'll pick certain sections that I want to help out. So maybe in this little crown area. Oh, smells amazing. I wish we had smell-o-vision. I like to hold it about 6 inches away from the scalp. And the beauty of this product is there's no residue. So I'm not gonna do it, but you can get pretty close and spray, and you'll see that there's no white residue or any type of icky feeling product stuff. And I'm actually gonna spray a little bit onto my hand. What do you guys think of the Shag? Let me know. I hope I did it justice. I will do a quick little recap on what I did. So the first step that I did is I cut one length. So I started off with my perimeter or my profile. The shape is square, so it's equal from front to back, and I cut it through the comb, okay? Then the next thing I did is I made a vertical section just below the crown, and I cut a flat layer. So I brought everything out to here, and I cut up to the ceiling. It was a traveling guide, so everything was brought into the previous section. And then once I got to the mastoid, I over-directed it all back, which made it a triangular shape. In the crown area, I took pivoting sections all the way around to the tops of the ears, and I brought everything to the first guide, and I cut parallel to the ceiling, like this, okay? Then when I got to the front area, I took vertical sections all the way to the front, and I over-directed everything back to the crown. Remember, over-direction controls your shape, and our shape was triangular. Short in the back, getting longer towards the front. The reason I did that is because I wanted a little bit of extra length to work with in the front. Once I did a quick little blow dry, then I walked through a fun little curtain bang for you guys. She's looking very rock star. You know, very Joan Jett 70s, which I'm a huge fan of. So I hope you guys liked our live. Again, my name is Todd Dasilva. On Instagram, it's @Dasilva_hair. I'm the assistant creative director here at Unite. We're actually at our academy here at Unite, where we do lots of classes. You know, when the world starts back up and we start going again, we're gonna be doing lots of classes here at the Academy. We do lots of cutting courses. We do lots of styling courses. We also offer a class called Runway Ready, which allows the attendee to go to Fashion Week like Paris, London, Milan, where you get to go backstage with Gary Baker, who's our creative director. And yeah, so we're having lots of fun with all these lives. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope to see you guys again soon. Thank you so much.